Hey, Olin, good morning. Are you over the delight yet, my friend?
Good morning, guys. It's just the delight kept coming, right, with Aaron Rodgers finding a way to beat the Lions there, and I'm sure you guys talked about it already. But the exact way the Bears should have went into the playoffs on a play where the ball is tossed back to Jared Goff and he jumps into the end zone, and everyone's wondering what the hell is going on in this game, right? But it was a great win for the Chicago Bears. Like I told you guys. I'm sure you
Yeah.
guys have heard stories too, but my family was there and they said people were crying in the stands. And that's what, like, when you ask young players, do you know what this Packer rivalry means? And then how much does it mean? And are you aware of what it means to the city of Chicago? And is it still a rivalry? The answer is always yes, because when you get to that stadium, man, and you feel the energy, things change, right? And you saw it affect the Chicago Bears with penalties on the first play and roughing the passer and just playing with so much emotion that as a former player, you get from the fans when you get to the stadium. You start to feel it. You start to hear the F Green Bay chants and you feel the energy and you feel everyone, how bad everybody wants to win that game. And it just elevates that game. And then for what that game meant. And it actually going back and watching the film, guys, it's not really pretty, right? Most of the game we talked about in the post game that I actually didn't want to watch the first three quarters of the game. And that's what I thought. I mean, that was confirmed through watching that film, right? It wasn't a great game by the Chicago Bears. Cairo Santos kept them hanging around with, I mean, what the onside kick, yeah. I mean, what was the chances of them recovering that, but also just a lot of things, right? Like, what was the chances of Cairo Santos hitting that field goal? I mean,
Yes.
it was crazy with the win and all the things that had to happen. So credit to the Chicago Bears for hanging in, fighting, and just finding a way that, guys, I had to go back and check the film two or three times just to ask myself, did they really just win the game I watched?
It can also be one of those games where you check the film and you check the records, and it reminded me of a game that you played in October of 2006, and it was against the Cardinals, and it was one of those games for three quarters you wanted to forget, and the Bears had played poorly enough to lose and yet somehow found a way to win, and it was a signature win of that season. And Olin, I think that it's not, to me, exaggeration to say this was the biggest regular season victory for the Bears since then. And we know what that led to, and that was a different team and a different time. But I do wonder, what is the power of a victory like Saturday night moving forward in terms of if you're trailing against a team in the playoffs? If you are down, are you ever out? And what that can mean to a team like the Bears?
Yeah, and it's meant that what you're mentioning is meant all year, right? The way they've fought and just found ways to win football games and what it can mean to confidence and learning, like going to the building and say, okay, we lost that game. Like you bring up the Cardinals game, but our offense knew how bad we played, right? Well, our offense knew that the defense kept us in the game with fumble recoveries and touchdowns and Hester's return for a touchdown. But we knew on offense, man, we had to get better, right? We had to get better if we want to go where we eventually want to end up. And that's what you're going to probably hear from the building coming out this week, right? Like we do have to play better football. We can't rely on last second touchdown throws to Jade Walker, an undrafted free agent, or a fumble recovery, or even, guys, I mean, a play that was not mentioned a lot is this 3rd and 20 after a holding on Dahlman, and
Yeah.
there's a face mask on the Green Bay Packers defensive lineman, right? That gets that field goal, gets them in the field goal range so they can have a chance to tie the game. So many things have to happen for Chicago Bears to win that football game, David, and qualify for the playoffs and maybe win the North and maybe get the second seed. And like you're talking about, what can it do for you in confidence wise? It makes you feel like you can win any game, that you're never out of a football game, that you can find a way to win a football game. Now, the Packers are, they're going to go up there and say, look, man, we had this guy out, that guy out, this guy out, that guy out, and all these things. So Chicago Bears just got to, like this whole year, just got to keep proving themselves. Let the film talk to them, right? Like I just said, when we first started. Look, watch the film. It's not very pretty, right? The things that were happening in that football game. Obviously, Chicago Bears red zone defense was really good, right? Not letting them score touchdowns. But Jordan Love is out of the game. And the thing that Coach Ben Johnson says all the time is that he is a truth teller, right? And the Chicago Bears will compliment you. We'll say, what a way to win the game. But in that building, there has to be a lot of truth telling of what was going on in that football game, why you fell behind, why you needed a few miracles to win a game against a team that did have a backup quarterback in there, didn't have the starting right tackle, didn't have Michael Parsons, all those things may offend some listeners, may offend some fans. Say, look, man, we just won, and that's fine, and everyone should enjoy it. But in that building, the truth telling that they always talk about, what they do, right? And I heard David say, well, Caleb Williams has arrived, and all these things. Make sure you're watching the film and say, okay, everyone's saying this about us outside of the building. Just like when they're talking negative about us, they're not right. Right, we're not as good as they say
right.
we are. We do have this record. All these things can be true. We did find a way to win that football game, but let's go back and look at that film, because if we want to go where we want to go, we got to get a lot of things fixed.
I think, Olin, that when I look at the defensive performance in that game, you can't help but try to be fair-minded about it, and you think a goal for defenses in the NFL is to keep a team under 17 points. They allowed 16 points. That's a win in terms of how the defense performed. But if you watch the game, my God, they had all these backup offensive linemen forced into action, and they ran over you. And they held the ball for, I think the final statistics were 38-57 to 26-13, because they could run all day. And we thought that they had fixed the run defense when after the bye week they had been a problem, something you were worried about, and they got it together. And I did not see the contribution from the defensive line that I was hoping for.
Not throughout the whole game, right? And we got the contribution, just like on offense, we got the contribution at the end of the game, right, from Montez Sweat.
Yes.
On that late game sack. But like you're talking about, Mully, that's what I'm saying. Like, most of the film is not great to watch. It was only the red zone defense that kept them out of the end zone, which credit to Dennis Allen. It seemed like that was his plan, right, to keep everything in front of them, except for when Romeo Doubs did beat C.J. Gardner-Johnson when they're a one-on-one down there, and hopefully he's healthy going into this week against the San Francisco 49ers. So we know Kyle Shanahan, and we got Christian McCaffrey, and these guys like to run the football, and that's what I'm saying about, we're on to the next game. We can learn a lot from this film, but like you're saying, Mully, a lot of that film, a lot of that game that you're watching all the way to the end there, yes, we're all going to say you played great, found a way to win, man. We're in the playoffs. We're all happy, but in that building, back to work, right? Just like you're not as bad as we say you are most of the time. You're not as good as you say we are most of the time. And the good thing for Coach Ben Johnson and Dennis Allen and Declan Doyle and their staff up there is they have a lot of film that they can go through of guys not doing the things that they're supposed to be doing. And in this game, when I talk about emotion and realizing what kind of football game you're getting into for most of that football game, guys, I don't know how you felt, but I felt like the Chicago Bears, the moment was a little too big for them, trying to win the game. And then at the end of the game, credit the quarterback, credit the plays that were made. Those moments weren't too big for them for most of the game. It looked like I saw a lot of mental mistakes that I hadn't seen in a while on film, on defense. I saw guys not getting into their run fits. I saw them going behind blocks, getting across guys. Packers had a great plan to keep Caleb Williams in the pocket, try to make him beat them from the pocket. I think into the last three drives, Caleb had 121 yards passing, and then obviously those numbers jumped after what we saw at the end of the game. But that's a great thing about when you win a football game like that, man. It's like you won, everyone's shaking hands. I remember David mentioned the Arizona game. All the way back on the airplane, I was thinking we suck, man. We suck on offense. We got to get better. We got to go to film, let the film talk to us, look like we have to correct, and then remember this feeling. Remember this moment that you just had at Soldier Field, because there's going to be a playoff game just like that. Hopefully we get the one at home. There'll be a playoff game. The emotions are going to be that high. The moments are going to be a little bigger. You always hear people say, well, guys, playoffs are a little different, man. I talk to the young players about the focus and what's going to happen in that game, and the level just rises. Good thing for the Chicago Bears is they got to just go through kind of a playoff atmosphere, not kind of a playoff atmosphere where Soldier Field was rocking, right? And the emotions when you walked into the stadium, and you're so emotional during the game, and you saw that from the Chicago Bears and a lot of the young players. And now Ben Johnson gets to coach off of that film. A lot of learning to do, but we still found a way to win the damn football game. And like I told you guys, I'm going to go back and watch the film again and make sure they won the game.
Yeah, because it's the fourth time the Bears have come back from a deficit of 10 or more points, the most in a season since 2000, according to True Media. So it tells you they dig a hole for themselves, but they have found ways to climb out of it. Olin, what was your opinion of the Austin Booker hit on Jordan Love that knocked him out of the game?
That was a good football play, man. I mean, obviously, you want to see Austin Booker keep his head up there. Jordan Love did duck his head. First thing you thought is, I hope Jordan Love's okay. Right? We all know what those hits can do to players nowadays. Obviously, didn't like the fact that Aaron Bank, another NFL football player, is advocating for a guy to get thrown out of the game for a play like that. That's a little silly to me. Obviously, like I talked about, the emotions are high, and the Bears. Dennis Allen's going to, like I told you, going to talk to Austin Booker, man. Say, okay, just know, like, I love the way you're playing, love the physicalness, right? Even his first roughing the passer probably could have rolled off a little earlier just because of what the rules are nowadays, right? Don't drive him into the ground. Keep your head up when you're coming in there. Wrap them up, put them on the ground. That's the game that they're playing nowadays, right? That is what they're calling. Obviously, you don't ever want to see helmet to helmet like that. You don't want to ever see a starting quarterback go out of the game and grab his head. But Jordan Love did duck his head there. We all saw that. Austin Booker did duck his head. Two guys could be coached on that play to keep their head up, to keep their head out of the game, to keep themselves safe.
This segment with Olin Kreutz is sponsored by Plumbers 911. Plumbing emergency, call the plumbing professionals. Available 24/7 at 1-833-PLUM-911. It's funny that David mentioned the Arizona game, because when we went on the air, Pat was having a problem connecting, and it was just me and Olin and the post game, and you were just laughing. And that was my recall of that Arizona locker room, like going in there, and everyone, it was almost like, quick, let's get out of here before someone calls the cops, and everyone kind of giggling. It felt like a highway robbery. It was just such a amazing feeling. I've never been in a locker room that felt that way. And then when we talked to the guy who was in the stands, and then you're telling us that your kids saw the same thing of people breaking down crying and hugging each other. The raw emotion that came out of that game. And you're right, there are problems. There are a lot of things that have to be fixed up, and you got to think about how this is going to be moving forward. But the elation that was felt citywide, and a buddy of mine at the game said that everyone was chanting Green Bay sucks as they went to their car. Like, it never stopped. It was like this just pure kind of joy about beating a team that had your number. And then you hear them in the post game, and you start thinking about, the Lions they have to win both games, and the Packers would have to lose both games. Well, how will they do moving forward? How quickly can the quarterback come back? It's just like, it's so good. That's not the Bears. The Bears they're in. That game was like watching the Bear game, where you're just frustrated and what are you doing, end the game, and then they finally win it, and the Bears are in. It's like a totally different feeling, and I think a lot of people are looking at it with rose-colored glasses.
As they should, right? With all the losing we've done to Green Bay, and we all know the stats of the last time the Bears got a playoff victory, and we have to go all the way back, just like you're talking about the Cardinals game. You got to go back to when I played in 2010 and 2011, right, to find a victory. I'll tell you one difference between the Arizona game, that now that you guys are mentioning it, that I'm thinking about, and this game, is that the quarterback won the game, right? And that's repeatable. Right?
Yes,
a quarterback
yes.
finding ways to win the football game. A franchise quarterback is what the Bears have been looking for. I heard you guys talking about the marriage between him and Ben Johnson, and how that was arranged, and they figured that out. And hopefully we have our coach and our quarterback, and that's how you get into the playoffs every year. That's how you compete for titles every year. We've all know the history of the NFL, so that immediately, to me, is the biggest difference between those two wins, right? We know that the defense and the special teams, and Hester caught that punt and returned it, and Mike Brown, and Brian Urlacher's 22 tackles and all those things, but not the quarterback didn't win that football game where he made a throw that I don't know how many guys can make that throw that Caleb made at the end of the game. And DJ Moore's catch is unbelievable. And the throw to Jade Walker when they're bringing blitzes and the blitzes aren't being picked up. And Caleb's just finding a way to make plays with his feet and that arm, that gift from God he got, right? That right arm that he throws the football with is unbelievable. But the win, man, Mully, what you're talking about is a city that's been waiting and needing a win like this, right? And, keep the Bears in Illinois. We talked about Kevin Warren should have called Pritzker right after that game and said, man, let's make a deal, right? Let's get the Bears back to Arlington Heights and let's get them back in Illinois. But really, that was the feeling there was, man, we all needed that win. I felt like that all weekend, right? And then the Lions find a way to lose that football game, and I needed that too. And the Bears in the playoffs. And I'm thinking, man, I get to analyze the playoff game this year. How fun is that going to be? But the Chicago Bears, the people at Hallis Hall, like you say, after losses, right? Put that away by Tuesday. Forget about it by Monday. Move on to the next game. That's what they have to do. That's where their leadership comes in. That's where this coaching staff comes in, right? It looked to me like, oh man, that moment there at Soldier Field, the game they just won, was a little too big for them for most of the game. Right, until they found ways to make plays.
Yeah, that feeling when they had the too cute moment in the first quarter, but then in the fourth, when they started calling timeout with 6.5 minutes to go, Packers still had the ball. I felt like that was the beginning of some really good, smart game management down the stretch. You looking ahead, and the Packers were at the end of a drive that settled for a field goal, but in that moment, Ben Johnson started to plot and to plan, I think, in terms of how to work the clock and what he needed. They were down 13-6 at the time, held the Packers to a field goal, and then they started to, I think, devise ways to come back, but always thinking ahead, and that was what you feel like you had a decided advantage because of him on the sideline.
Yeah, and even with him, even with like you're talking about, David, like you could see him start to plot and plan to find a way to win the football game, and like you're saying, yeah, they may look like total luck, but not all of it is luck, right? It's like, okay, here's how we get back into the game. Here's the plan. We got to get a field goal here. We got an onside. But even then, they came out for the field goal, and all that time ran off the clock, and then they have to do the onside, right? So there are a lot of things that we saw from the Chicago Bears in this game that a lot of people can learn from, right? And we're just watching the game, going over it. The young coaching staff, the young coach can learn from it. The team can learn from it. But there is nothing better than learning from a win because a few guys found a way to come up and make football plays, right? And that's what I'm saying about this game, that gives you so much hope that you're watching. It feels good because you think to yourself, the first thing you think is at the end of the game, man, it was our quarterback who's making those plays, right? It was our quarterback who led the Chicago Bears to victory. And when you're saying, okay, when's the last time things happen? Well, when's the last time that happened, right? Like you compare a lot of football games and say, well, there's a few times in Bears history where they won football games they shouldn't have won. That was pretty amazing, right? But when's the last time the quarterback came out and made throws and won the football game with his arm, his skill, his talent? That's why he was the number one pick in the draft.
Great stuff, Olin. Always a joy. Happy Christmas to you and yours, and we'll see you on Sunday.
Thanks, Olin.
Appreciate it, guys. Merry Christmas.